Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today. Hope you're all doing absolutely excellent. Today, we're talking about next generation console rumors for Xbox. Indeed, this time it's not will they, won't they. It's actual details about the launch window, about the specs, about Xbox's target for the market, some price hints. Like, we have actual information here to really sit down and talk about and get an idea of what Xbox's plans may be for 2027. This comes from Moore's Law is Dead, who's an awesome dude, great YouTuber. If you're into all the tech stuff, great place to be. I'll have his channel and the video linked down below. Please check him out. He's been on Last Stand Media a bunch of times talking to my good friend Colin about all things video game hardware, especially PlayStation. And that may ring a bell for you, is that Moore's Law is Dead was recently talking about how the PlayStation 6 will launch alongside a dockable handheld of some form. He's in on a lot of the hardware leaks, so he's a source worth talking about at the very least. And it is, at least for once here, not a will they, won't they stay in, but rather here's what Xbox is planning to do style leak for the next generation. So I really wanted to take a genuine look at it and just break it all down. How am I feeling if these are the plans for Xbox for their next generation, provided they stick with it? Is this interesting at all? Let's break it all down. Again, I'll have his video linked in the description down below if you want to check it out. And if you're new here and you're into what's going on with Xbox, consider subscribing. So let's start breaking it down here. He refers to it as Project Magnus. This is the largest APU to ever be used in a gaming console ever. And based on the video that I watched here, using the word console might be a bit more of a liberal term for what Xbox is effectively targeting. What they're going to try to do based on this video here is walk a line. They're going to try to appeal to, I'll be honest, people like me. I play on my PC a lot, but like, I'm a console bro through and through. I much prefer being away from my workstation here and just posting up behind me here, kicking my feet up and playing on my console controller and hands. I'm sorry if that makes me a casual, but that's what I like to do the most. That's how I grew up gaming, even though PC gaming has a lot of benefits nowadays. But Xbox is going to try to appeal to both console fans and PC fans. And I feel like it's all going to come down to price and performance. So what's going on here with this APU? He says it's 13% larger than what's within the Xbox Series X. It should be stronger than what the PS6 offers, but that means it will also most likely be more expensive than the PlayStation 6. Again, targeting a 2027 launch. Xbox is apparently talking to partners behind the scenes about this too, so you can kind of pencil that one in. Holiday 2027 is probably when we're going to get our next generation Xbox, and I imagine next year, since it's the 25th anniversary of Xbox, we may get a teaser of what this new system looks like, given that Sarah Bond just confirmed this year that they have a partnership with AMD for the next generation of consoles. So as it's been rumored many times before, and Moore's Law is Dead brings it up in his video here, the goal for this next Xbox console is to run more than just Xbox applications, like more than just your video games. It's about challenging the PC gaming market by using a hybrid design. However, because of that, while we view Xbox and PlayStation, even now in Xbox's more multi-platform stage in their business, I still view Xbox and PlayStation as direct competitors, just by the way they behave with one another. Like, I know Xbox is free to bring their games over to PlayStation. They've done as much, but then Xbox announces Forza Horizon 6, and this is a timed exclusive. Indiana Jones was a timed exclusive. Like, I don't really know if Xbox wants to fully go there, because I think they still understand, especially based on recent business decisions involving Game Pass, that like people buying games on their platform, especially when they lost so much money in sales in Call of Duty, is a very good thing for their business and something they want to incentivize. And you incentivize people to invest in your hardware by having great exclusives. So it's partially Xbox's behavior, but also like PlayStation no doubt wants to just choke Xbox out by just alienating them. A lot of people have written in on Defining Duke asking us questions like, hey, will Game Pass come to PlayStation now that Xbox is kind of going third party? And I'm like, no, PlayStation wants Xbox to starve. They want people to buy games on their platform. They don't want people to have the option to get games for free via Game Pass. So these two companies and the way that they influence the market are competing with one another. So I think us as the consumer will still view them head to head, but it appears based on what Moore is saying here that that is not the case for Xbox, that they're looking more at the PC market. The price range he's giving us right now starts as low as more than $800 and goes all the way up to certainly not more than $1,500. And this is something I've talked a lot about, although I have very little technical knowledge. Like Moore's Law is Dead, I've said just based on the way pricing is going in gaming, you're looking at these handhelds and whatnot, I would not be surprised if Xbox's next console pushes past the $1,000 mark. However, based on what Moore's Law is Dead breaks down in this video here, it would be really beneficial for them to undercut the competition that they are targeting here. So think of that price range, $800 to $1,500. That's a pretty wide canvas. I think a lot of people can swallow the pill if it's sub $1,000 and it's a really strong console PC hybrid that can get you through an entire generation. At the same time, I do see a world where it's $1,000 plus and people are like, I can get the same experience plus like 5 games at launch over on PS6. I'm going to go do that. He based some of the pricing ranges on the Strix Halo laptops, which have a larger APU than what Xbox is planning, and those are rumored to go for around $1,000. However, what Moore's Law is Dead argues, and I do think this is a fair argument, is that Xbox's next console would create some competition for pre-built PCs. Now, I will raise my hand again, console bro here. I've been a pre-built dude since 2012. Again, judge me if you will, call me a simpleton if you will, by all means, I'll welcome it right through the door here. But I've always enjoyed me a little pre-built. Like, okay, I know these specs, I know they're good, I do my research on the specs, but like, I'm not I'm gonna get intimate with my PC and build it myself. Like, I've always loved a little pre-built action, even when it was at a premium price tag. Like, I was happy to fork out the extra money for people who are better at it than me. And so we've seen a lot of pre-built PCs over this last year or so have really gone up in price. And if Xbox can come in as sort of the console appeal on that broader level, but also making a competitive PC-like experience that makes people who are in the market for PCs go, well, why would I buy, you know, a mid-tier PC from CyberPower if instead I can buy one from Xbox, which undercuts the market, gives me what I'm looking for, the freedom of Windows, if you want to call it that, while also playing all of my games. Again, it's going to be a really interesting next generation. That's why I'm not being too definitive on it, because I think we're at the point now where the big three have such vastly different game plans. Like, Nintendo's going to march to the beat of their own drum. They're going to be the last hardware maker. PlayStation seems to want to maintain status quo, and Xbox is like, we're fighting to survive. We don't view PlayStation as competition. We're like fighting and scratching, clawing our way to whatever the hell this next generation console is going to be. But Moore's Law is Dead argues that Xbox is inserting themselves into the PC market could help keep pre-builts in check, which have become a bit pricey. However, I feel with news and pricing already starting to flow it out. Remember like the cat and mouse game that PlayStation and Xbox were doing at the beginning of this generation, where like we didn't get the price until like what, August or September for these new consoles in the Series X and the PS5. Like, it was really played out for a long period of time. So I have no doubt that, because Xbox is a very leaky company, as more information pours out, companies are going to react and make preparations for what Xbox is doing on the market. What this can offer, though, from my point of view, there's two things I thought of on the gamer front. Let's get away from the tech talk for just a moment here. The first thing I thought of that could be good is you make one SKU for an Xbox game that applies to both console and PC now. This is good because you have games like Gears of War, which we know are limited to consoles, and unless you're playing on the cloud, have yet to make their way to PC. This can be a problem of the past, although Xbox has been pretty good about making games for all those platforms in the first place, but I guess you can get away from that limitation. The other thing I thought of is how it affects Xbox Play Anywhere, which, as the Xbox Ally launches, is in a bit of an awkward position. Xbox Play Anywhere and anything is an Xbox feels like, you know, this really weird marketing tag to put on your products because most of the games don't support it. And so as someone who is very into the idea of an Xbox handheld, I looked at the Ally and went like, well, I want to love you, but I mean, you're not really, you're a PC. But most of my Xbox library that I've invested time and money into is not available here. And that could maybe be a thing of the past if, again, if you make a game a SKU for Xbox, that it's also a SKU for PC, and in turn, a lot of these third-party games support Play Anywhere more than ever. Because right now, you'll have situations like Square Enix is like, Final Fantasy VII Remake is a Play Anywhere title, Final Fantasy 16 is a Play Anywhere title, but here comes Final Fantasy Tactics: The Ivalice Chronicles, that's not Play Anywhere. It's like, what? Out of all games, you don't want that to be Play Anywhere? So you don't know if it's like a developer issue, is it a money issue, is it a SKU issue, but I feel like this could maybe massage that issue if it does turn out when you make a game for Xbox, it's also kind of making one for PC. This is something that I think we've learned has benefited other PC handheld makers, because when you made a SKU for the Series S, that was pretty much in line with a lot of PC handhelds out there. And so it was kind of a parallel that allowed them to work well over there. So I feel like Xbox is using maybe those studies to their advantage. I don't know. Now, given that Moore's Law is Dead is very tapped into this hardware space, he did share some thoughts as well on the next generation rumors for Xbox, as recently as what happened with Sneakers SO claiming that hardware is up in the air, which, as we've talked about in that video, and we talked about in Defining Duke, there is a level of people taking up in the air and turning it into cancellation. Now, he says that he believes these rumors are having their wires crossed. Like, the production of the series consoles has slowed down or even outright stopped, but they are ramping up next gen since like purchasers and subscribers are still active, and effectively argues that because people are reacting to the price change, they're not just like dead subs who are like, oh yeah, that's on my credit card, but like people who are actively invested in the ecosystem. He spoke to people who worked at AMD, and they said as recently as last Friday, October 3rd, they are working on Project Magnus. My only thought is I think of those reports where, you know, Xbox saw Project Blackbird. They went, this is great. You know, there's Phil and Matt apparently sitting there playing it, hyping it up. It's great. They actually move resources over, hundreds of thousands of dollars of resources over, and like next week it's canceled. So my brain does go there, where as much as I want to buy in, I have to obviously be rational and say, I have learned that Xbox will say one thing one week and do something the next week. Like, these rumors are certainly interesting, and I want to take a level-headed conversation to them outside of like all the price noise that we've talked about for the last week or so. But like, would it surprise me if next week they were like, we're out? It's like, no, unfortunately it wouldn't. So hearing him say that they're working on it as recently as October 3rd is great. Like, as I said in my video, I don't want to see Xbox leave the hardware space because I think it's bad for gamers. I know Microsoft has made a lot of really bad choices as of lately, but I do feel like the industry gets worse if you just leave this up to PlayStation and Nintendo. And that's the case with really any company, right? You have so many that are trying to fight to gain control of it, like your Apples and your Amazons that are kind of poking their head in the door. No doubt there are other big companies that are looking at how much money video games make. And so I just worry when you have someone who's had a foothold in the industry for 25 years, what it looks like if they completely pull out. So I'm hoping they can figure it out, but no doubt, as we've discussed to death now, that whatever they do next is the last chance and they have to get it right. Now, another leak that Moore's Law is Dead did speak to was the one from Kepler, who was the AMD leaker that talked about how that Xbox basically needed to sell like 10 million units of whatever their proprietary handheld would be. And so that's why they cut out that individual handheld and went for the Xbox Ally instead, because they wouldn't meet those sales targets. He said he never got a number like 10 million, but felt there was some sort of sales concern that was valid/inferred, given that there was a semi-custom APU that would use ARM cores in there that made it ultimately not worth it for Xbox. So there's a lot of information here, right? You got 2027 release date. You have an Xbox that can go upwards of $1,500. You have them targeting the PC market. And this is the squeeze I've talked a lot about with Xbox. Like, sincerely, I do think their plans, at least on paper, sound solid, but they sound solid in the year 2025. This market moves fast. Like I talked about, I think no doubt there are other PC manufacturers who are taking note of what's going on here. It's like, how can we get competitive by 2027 when these new consoles launch to make sure people are staying invested in PC gaming? How can we eat from the console player base that is opening their minds to PC gaming, right? There was a reason why the Master Race thing was kind of said mockingly, but now it's a little bit serious because there was a point where it's like, oh yeah, you guys got to update your drivers and all this crazy crap. Like, you're fighting to get frames and whatnot. Like, we just get to throw the disc in, bro. It's just that easy. But the squeeze can happen fast because we have heard rumors that Valve might do some sort of living room experience. Like, we know right now, based on rumors, they're doing like a headset first. We've seen how the Steam Deck has gone. But there's those rumors of them like entering a sort of console-like space. And given how Steam OS really scared the life out of Microsoft to the point where that was another reason they moved their own handheld out of this year to figure out how to get more performance out of Windows. Like, if Steam enters the living room and they can weaponize, like, you got your whole Steam library here, plus the power of like being able to download all these other launchers, like, that creates a strong argument to look at Valve doing the same thing that Xbox might be doing. And if that's the case, then now it's not about like, oh, hey, at least Xbox is offering this, which PlayStation isn't, because now Valve can insert themselves in that conversation. And then, as I've talked about many times before, the handheld part of the conversation is also a little bit of a question mark to me, because while I'm very interested in Xbox handheld, like a proper dedicated one, not kind of what we're getting with the third-party Ally, but a proper Xbox handheld. Again, one of the reasons I was very big on it coming out this year is because I went, great, you're ahead of your competition who has yet to do this. But when PlayStation, who has established themselves with the PSP, the Vita, which has a cult following, the Portal, despite as much as people laughed at it, I bought that thing day one. Apparently a lot of people did too. It ends up finding a really strong place in the market, does really well, gets tons of updates. Like, it's a great little machine at a great value. PlayStation has a lot of handheld heritage, just like Nintendo. So you have these great handheld options everywhere. And when Xbox is introducing their handheld option, at the same time PlayStation might be doing it. And if PlayStation's is more affordable, now you're creating a very awkward conversation there. So what I worry can happen to Xbox, and we don't know until we start to get all this information, but for me, looking out 2 years, I can see a world where here's Xbox in the middle like this, and here comes PlayStation with their handheld and price tag, and here comes like Valve and other PC competitors with their PC-like experiences and price tags, and squeezing Xbox right in the middle, where they might be a sweet spot for some people, but for others it might be like a world where if Xbox prices their next hardware at $1,500 and it's really powerful, people might say, well, I can buy the PlayStation 6 and the handheld for the same price and still have money to buy games compared to an Xbox. So that's the interesting part of the conversation, is how much of the console market will take a look at a PC-like console. Will that appeal to them? I'm not even interested in talking about, like, how does this make sense for Xbox if you buy their console and then you buy games from Steam on there? I think it's just because they're done subsidizing their hardware costs that they're just going to make profit on hardware, and like, that's the end of the day. I don't know. And so I just think about, again, that squeeze. And if that squeeze is keeping me up at night, getting my brain going 2 years out, I'm like, what is Xbox thinking right now? So we'll see, but I hope they fight their way to at least one more generation, because the end of the story is they got to nail it. If they don't nail it, I mean, I know we've had a lot of Xboxes done conversations before, but truly, I don't know how you get more hardware out if after Xbox One and then the Series generation, you justify yourself to do it again, you know, in 2034. So we'll see. But ladies and gentlemen, these are just my thoughts on the recent leak from Moore's Law is Dead. Again, his channel will be linked down below with the video. Please check him out. Great dude. Other than that, I'll catch all of you in the next one. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.